fruit in your relationships? What's the harvest? That's why we are all together, really. That's why we get together in this world where we connect with each other, is we want to experience the joy, the love. Oftentimes it doesn't happen, though. And the fruit that we bear is not good fruit. It's loneliness or desperation. So we're Clay and Sonia Heart Life Coaching, and this is our series on how your life is like a tree and how you can plant good things. And this is the last one. So this is all about the fruit, which is, our favorite one.
So let's talk about some key points when it comes to fruit.
When we're not experiencing enough harvest or enough of the good fruit, then we kind of complain and we're like, oh, how can I have more peace and more joy and more love and more connection and all of that stuff? And that becomes our focus.
How do you define good fruit and bad fruit? What does that look like? You go pick a pear tree with a tree. You're always going to have some bad fruit on that.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is what you were talking about your focus. So if we just focus on the bad fruit, we got a whole tree of good fruit around it and we don't look at it. It's very interesting how that works.
Yeah, that's true. We can often have those worms that show up in our fruit. What is it that you're wanting to get out of this relationships? Because you can get some things from some other relationships, and that's good. But what about our relationship? And what if I desire, and are my actions aligning with
There's a deal.
that?
Sure.
Oh yeah, I want to be more connected, and, and I don't ever listen.
Even more so with it too. So what I'm hearing then is just be intentional about what you want with it too. And I think that's really important with stages of life. We've been married 45 years this year, and we've gone through a lot of phases and a lot of life stuff. We've, been single as a couple in college. We had kids, and then we're empty nesters now fully. And with each one of those, I think it's important to define what you want when you're in the middle of it, and also when it changes, what are you going to want, and being intentional about that when the season changes. And let me give you an example that is like when you have kids, you have to be so intentional about working on your relationship and making sure you're nurturing and caring for the space between, and making sure that connection maintains, because they're so busy and a lot of times so tired that we don't make that effort. And it takes a lot of work to do that, but a lot of it's just about focus within that. But as your kids grow and as they move away from home, all of a sudden the kids are going, it's like, who the crap are you? It's like, what do I do with this now? Within that too, because they've spent the whole time during the years with kids making a living and being busy and going to soccer practice or whatever, but their relationships kind of got left in the dirt.
So knowing that you have that those fruits in any season of life, right, even when you're busy, to be able to kind of like, okay, this is important to me, and how do we do that? Because sometimes we neglect it, and then we wonder, why am I not feeling more connected?
One of the things I noticed was like when the kids all were out, was that you and I think we deepened our friendship. I mean, we've always been good friends ever since we were in high school, but there's a depth now that comes along with that's phenomenal for me, and I feel so much more connected at that level with you. And that's one of those fruit things that has come out of that season when we're in.
Yeah. So, because I know that maybe when we had children, or when, like, I was thinking health issues, all the health issues that we experienced, then the focus was on just supporting each other.
Yeah.
We had, even though sometimes we didn't do so well.
And sometimes you got to get through.
Sometimes we just got through it. And we could have had I wish we'd had better skills to support each other during that time.
No kidding.
But then now it is more about just enjoying life and doing things. Yeah. And kind of, it's not so much about, as we age, it might go back to supporting each other. Maybe. Health issues that we have, but for now, we have the opportunity to just kind of like, oh, what would you like to do, and communicate that.
But in each one of the seasons, there's a passage in Philippians chapter 4 of the Bible that talks about be joyous in every season of life. I just love that passage, and I really relate that to what you and I do, is wherever we are, whatever age we are, or however long we've been together, do we enjoy what it is right now? And do we look for the fruit when we're in the space, whatever space that might be at a particular time? Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think that maybe being aware of what fruit we're wanting. What is the harvest that we're
Yeah.
wanting from our relationship?
Yeah.
Is it more joy, more love, more connection, more friendship? And then being aware of that. And then are my efforts going toward that? Sometimes I have to speak up. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I am feeling a little bit lonely.
People that are farmers or have fruit trees, they have experienced having fruit come and then they eat the fruit and the fruit is nasty, even though it looks beautiful. And that's one of the things that's really important with this is nurturing. Even when a tree is producing its fruit, is continuing to take care of it. And so is a relationship with it too. And little things, are you doing those little things? Are you appreciating each other? Or, putting positive things into the space between you? What are you doing to nurture and make sure that things are going well? Do you have ideas about that? About the little thing?
I think, yeah, it's those daily habits. That's just kindness and appreciation. Sometimes we're kinder to people outside our home than we are with each other. And that kind of like, oh, that's going to...
There's a good litmus test for you.
And so, because we take each other for granted or we feel hurt, we experience hurts and a rupture of connection. And then instead of coming back and doing a repair and, making sure that we reconnect, we hold on to those resentments and we kind of like, it feels good. Like, oh, yes, it feels so good and so powerful to hold on to this resentment for weeks and weeks instead of, being honest and saying, that was painful when you did that or when I experienced that. And so this is what I need instead.
Another thing that a lot of couples do is they numb out.
Oh, yeah.
And then you live nice parallel lives. You live together. You might have sex once a quarter, or you talk about the gas bill or when the kid needs to go to soccer. And then beyond that, you're just real nice roommates, but you're not intentionally doing the little things to nurture and so that you get fruit at all. And a lot of couples are in that space.
Yeah. One thing that I think of with us is boundaries, the boundaries issue, because I notice that when I'm not having good boundaries,
especially
emotional boundaries, that's when I start to feel controlled. And that's when I feel like I have to withdraw and not get what I want to get. And then I kind of use other things. Instead of having a boundary, I'll have to use a wall. And then that's when I distract myself or numb myself out or something like that. So that
the joys of Netflix.
And instead of really having a really healthy boundary where I'm respecting you and allowing you to be you, but I'm also allowing me to be me and honoring both of these truths, which is really a hard thing. You do have to stay in this upper brain to have that.
And by the way, if you're in that space where it's hard to get out of the emotional part of the brain, look back at the things we've talked about dialogue, because that is what can move you from that emotional part of your brain up to the frontal cortex, where you can find win-wins and reason.
Thank you for watching our Tree of Life metaphor. It's been kind of fun to bring this to you. If you have any questions, we do have a cheat sheet that kind of walks you through all these and gives you some questions to kind of discuss and talk with each other. If you haven't seen those videos, then check them out. And please like and subscribe.
Thanks so much, and we'll see you on the next video.